if you're a country of just 4 million people, the last thing you want is the neighborhood superpower breathing down your neck. Welcome to Georgia, a country under constant threat from the might that is Russia. 3 years ago, Russia attacked Georgia over the regions of Abkhazia and South Ossetia, which were demanding independence from Georgia. The fighting ended within days, but the Russians remain to this day occupying both of those regions, or, as it sees it, protecting both of these regions from being reintegrated into Georgia. Georgia, meanwhile, is hoping to join NATO so that its friends in the West will finally stand up to Russia and it will get Abkhazia and South Ossetia back again. Repeat all that after me. Well, no, don't try that. Just listen now to David Baradze, the chairman of the Georgian Parliament. David, there's lots of different places to start, obviously, but let's start with the relationship with Russia today. How is it today?
Well, unfortunately, there is no much progress, or any progress to be more precise,
right,
in our relations, and we still have Russian troops illegally stationed in Georgia, occupying 20% of our territory. We still have Russia bringing additional sophisticated weaponry to those territories, and we still have Russia trying to destabilize the situation in Georgia. So, unfortunately, there is no progress. But just to make it clear, we believe that despite all these things which I listed, the only solution and possible improvement in our relations may be based on the long-term dialogue between our two countries. And we said many times that despite the fact that Russia today is an occupying force, we are ready to sit, we are ready to open the negotiations, and we are ready to seek for the long-term sustainable solution through the negotiations. Unfortunately, I mean, the response from other side is totally negative.
Right. But so what's the situation in the 20%, do you think, at the moment? I mean, South Ossetia and Abkhazia. I mean, in both of those cases, do you think the Russians see themselves to be there forever, and you see them to be there for 3 weeks or whatever? I mean, what do you see as the situation? Or do you think, worse still, that Russia wants more than 20% of Georgia?
Well, first of all, these two regions are heavily depopulated. Like in South Ossetia, we have only about 7,000–8,000 people living. So no. 7,000–8,000, yes. It's depopulated because of economic hardship, because of devastation, because of criminality and chaos. So basically there are more Russian soldiers than local civilians living in this region. In Abkhazia we have about 20% of pre-war population, and again the rest became victims of the ethnic cleansing. So we have two depopulated areas with a lot of economic difficulties, with a lot of Russian troops presented there, bringing no good to local population. So situation is hard. What we see today on the Russian side reminds me very much of Soviet times and Soviet presence in the Eastern Europe and Baltic countries. You know, they try to create this impression that they are there forever. They make a very bold political statements on that regard. They bring new weapons, they build military fortifications, they build some so-called border lines and so on to strengthen this impression that Russia is there forever and it will not go. But I believe that historical logic is absolutely the same as it was in case of Eastern Europe, and one day they will have to go because there is no other way, no other possible continuation of the history.
What, so that you mean that the final decisive factor will be attrition, really, in the end? That it's less jobs, less food, less prosperity in those areas?
No, economically, those are fully devastated areas and, as I said, heavily depopulated. But I think we have a good strategy how to address, and this strategy basically consists of three elements. One element is working with local communities, engaging local communities and demonstrating them that we Georgians and Abkhaz and Ossetians, we are not enemies. We don't hate each other, but we treat them with respect and we treat them as our citizens. We are building the most tolerant state in the regions, and we will fully accommodate ethnic interests of all ethnic groups living in Georgia, including Abkhaz and Ossetians. Second element is reforming the country, strengthening Georgia and making it more attractive for these people. And that's something on which we spend a lot of energy and resources, how to transform Georgia, how to make it more successful, how to make it more attractive. And we're doing a lot for that. And the third element is, of course, working with Russia, first of all, with the assistance of international community, pushing Russia to implement the ceasefire agreement signed by its own president, which Russia is ignoring at the moment, pushing Russia to be positive or more constructive player with this regard, to withdraw its troops as it is foreseen by ceasefire agreement, to allow international monitors, to give them the access to occupied territories, and to stop destabilization, including destabilization by organizing different bombings and attacks, subversive acts on the territory of Georgia. So working with Russia, making Georgia stronger and success story, and engaging local communities, these are the three elements which we believe will make our efforts successful.
And how about the relationship with NATO?
Relations with NATO, that is also part of making Georgia strong, secure and successful. For us it's very important because we don't see NATO just as a military alliance. I mean, we see NATO as a natural harbor for a small democracy like Georgia.
Could you give us a date when you would like to join NATO? Tomorrow?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. That's even sooner.
So I cannot tell you when we will be able to join, because that's a decision to be made on the side of allies. But what I can say that we treat NATO as a harbor of safety for transitional democracy, small transitional democracy like we are. And we don't want to take security, but we are ready to contribute to the extent which small country can.
So really, your summing up would be that with the exception of the problem of the 20% still being in Russian hands, of course, and that's a very important saver in that thing. Other than that, you're talking really about a rather positive and happy country.
Well, you know, there are never happy countries, and once you achieve something, there is always much more to achieve. But we're talking about country in very successful transition. We're talking about the country which was a failed state 10 years ago, and today we're recognized by the World Bank as the world's top reformer based on results of last 5 years. We're talking about a country which was a case study for corruption 10 years ago, and today we are recognized by Transparency International as one of the world's top fighter against corruption. We're talking about a country with absolutely inefficient state institutions 10 years ago, and today it's a country where police and army enjoys 87% of popular trust. So we're talking about a country which did a lot throughout these years, despite remaining difficulties and despite Russian occupation. And that's, by the way, something which I think Russia does not like, because we want to be a success story. We are a success story, and this success story will have positive soft power on conflict resolution as well. So I think that is partly what irritates Russians and why they try to destabilize internal situation in my country.
That could well have something to do with it, yes. Well, it's great to have you with us. We send our greetings to your president, and
thank you.
We hope he's well too. And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.